intelligence. It's here whether we like it or not.
Artificial intelligence.
Machine learning. Robots.
It's exciting and also very frightening.
Some of the biggest names in science and technology warn about the dangers of using artificial intelligence to make weapons.
I think the development of full artificial intelligence could spell the end of the human race.
This is really like the scariest problem to me. That's where you need the regulators to come in and say, hey guys, you all need to pause and make sure this is safe.
Artificial intelligence has the potential to solve all of the most difficult problems of today and tomorrow.
AI will impact everything. There's nothing it won't touch.
It is a renaissance. It is a golden age. Robots let people do more than they could by themselves.
What do we want to use AI for? To solve problems and to be more prosperous and to be healthy. That has to be its purpose.
With artificial intelligence, the computers start to learn, to think, to rewrite, to design their own programs. AI can give us the ability to hear better, to see better, to give us new capacities that we never had before.
You can pair a human doctor plus an artificial intelligence system to create new drugs that humans in a lab might not have considered before.
You could see incredible expansion in lifetimes. This all sounds very Star Trek, but believe me, it's going to happen.
The question is, are we going to be smart enough to make choices as to what we want as a society?
Scientists are creating AI today and setting the course for a new tomorrow. How AI changes our lives now and in the future is up to us.
We're at this fork in the road where if we get things right with AI, we can help life flourish like never before and really bring out the best of us. Many people think of intelligence as something mysterious that can only exist in biological organisms like humans.
Artificial intelligence has actually been part of our lives without us really even realizing.
Can you really elicit intelligent behavior by machines? Things like being able to learn, being able to reason.
There is no definition, this is artificial intelligence. It's really a set of practices and pieces that people put together is what is AI.
I think we should define it simply as the ability to accomplish complex goals. So artificial intelligence is simply intelligence that's not biological.
Artificial intelligence has many definitions, but at its core, when machines display the ability to see, hear, understand, and learn about the world like we do, they're considered artificially intelligent.
I would hope you could tell I am a robot by the wires coming out of my body.
And understanding language is one of the biggest challenges in creating smart machines.
Hey, Jibo!
Hey, Cynthia.
From the Star Trek computer,
The next hatchway on your right.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Commander Riker.
to Samantha and her, the machines of our sci-fi worlds communicate effortlessly with us.
What do I call you? Do you have a name?
Yes. Samantha.
Really? Where'd you get that name from?
I gave it to myself, actually.
But getting machines to understand our human language is one of the hardest tasks in artificial intelligence today. Languages are nuanced and complicated and present difficulties for computers that are used to fixed rules. Language can also be easily misinterpreted. Take the famous Groucho Marx quote.
One morning I shot an elephant in my pajamas. How he got in my pajamas, I don't know.
To actually understand what is being said is really, really hard for the computer to do. What we try to solve through the field of natural language processing is to start cracking what does it mean when we use these words in sentences? How are sentences related to one another? Is this word close to this other word, and why? So that is a field that for us is so easy, is very hard for computers to do.
The history of debating can be traced back to the ancient Greeks. It was often used to help solve complex ethical issues. In its simplest form, a proposition is posed by a moderator. Each side has an opening argument, a rebuttal, and a closing argument, all of which must be presented in an allotted time. A debater must have critical thinking skills and broad knowledge on a variety of topics. In a good debate, the opponent might also use humor to create a persuasive argument.
I will not make age an issue of this campaign. I am not going to exploit, for political purposes, my opponent's youth and inexperience.
The range of potential construction of debate arguments is quite simply infinite. There are so many decisions that have to be done to construct a succinct argument that is original and that is able to be responsive to what an opponent presents, and then in the end to be able to net out all the arguments that you made as a closing arguments. All of this, when you peel down the layers, push the envelope of what computers can do on every single front.
The computer can read hundreds of millions of articles in seconds, but it needs to be able to pinpoint exactly the relevant 1,000 words or 2,000 words to debate humans. For a computer, it's very difficult to understand the question. And for humans, it's exactly the opposite. We typically understand the question very quickly. We simply don't have enough memory in order to pull out all the relevant answers.
We are so used as people to understand language, we're not even aware of how difficult this is. For us, it's very clear how to build an argument, how to connect things to each other. When we try to teach a computer to understand language, what we have are building blocks. We can teach a computer system to understand parts of speech. We can teach it to identify concepts, and by that perhaps identify similarities between concepts and then similarities between sentences. But you really have to tell the system in a way how to glue things together smartly.
The debates you are about to see have never been shown on television.
I hope that you will enjoy listening and watching full live debate between a fully automatic system and expert human debaters. So have fun.
Our motion for the first round, as you can see behind me, is whether or not we should legalize sports betting.
All of these topics the debater system has not seen in the past and were not part of its training, and the only input is that topic.
On the side supporting legalization, we have our very own IBM debater, and on the side objecting to it, we have the lovely Chaya Eichler.
Greetings, Chaya. So nice to meet again. I hope that today I will do better than the last time I faced your convincing arguments, or at least that you will show some mercy.
Once debater is given a topic, it first tries to comprehend the meaning of that topic. Debater then scans hundreds of millions of articles to pinpoint potential arguments that can be used to construct a 4-minute defense of its position. Debater does this by using unique natural language processing, machine learning, and reasoning techniques to understand the underlying themes of the debate and to arrange its arguments effectively and convincingly.
I would suggest we should legalize sports betting. Are we entitled to decide for people how to behave, or are people entitled to decide on their actions as they choose to? The purpose of legislation is not to define morality or teach ethics.
The question put to us by IBM Debater is, are we entitled to choose how other people behave? And the answer is yes. First of all, when the person's ability to make an informed, rational decision has been impaired. And second of all, when there's a concrete and measurable harm to others.
The debater needs to listen to the opponent for 4 minutes, not for a single sentence. The opponent is talking fast, making complex arguments, raising ethical considerations, and the system needs somehow to understand the gist of that and to come up with a proper response.
After presenting its initial argument, debater listens to a counter-argument and then builds its rebuttal based on what it's heard.
Chaya suggested that we have an obligation to protect our citizens. I would like to offer a different view. We oppose using the excuse of protecting citizens to justify the limiting of freedom and of lifestyle choices. Getting involved in someone else's decision-making when it concerns his own personal situation infringes on that person's rights.
The problem is that when it comes to betting, the only time you're making a rational choice is the first time you place a bet. And then people keep placing bets, but they're not making rational choices anymore because of the nature of addiction. And that's where a government has to step in and say, this is dangerous for you.
I think we all agree that sports betting has negative effects. It often involves exploiting the weak. But the best way to help the weak is not by telling them what not to do, but rather by changing the environment and conditions around them. Therefore, I believe the motion should stand. We should legalize sports betting.
After the debate, audience members vote to determine the winner.
So IBM Debater was able to increase support by 10%, and Chaya was able to increase support by 12%, nearly a tie.
The computer's getting better every time I debate against it, I think. The first time it felt sort of like I was much better than it, but it's getting better. It's learning how to use its points in order to convince people that it's right. I've been in debating for about 16 years now, since I was in high school. I coach debaters, but then you see a machine that's doing the same job, and it's learning each time it gets better. I think it's magic what it's doing. It's incredible.
Although currently debating at a high school level, Project Debater stands to impact industries far beyond the debate podium.
We're moving from search to research, because when you search, you want to get documents relevant to your search topic. And we're trying to help you research a topic in the sense of going one layer deeper into that. So when you search a topic, you get a list, and when you research a topic in the sense that we're talking about, you get pro and con arguments for the topic. It can be applied to anything that has to do with decision making.
You can imagine all sorts of business decisions, or if you are a lawyer or a litigator and you're trying to construct an argument, every kind of decision where you want to have pro and con arguments, we would benefit from debating technologies.
This technology is really focused on questions that do not have a clear factual answer. Most of the questions that we encounter in life are questions like that. So I think we are touching at something which is really fundamental to our daily life, and therefore we anticipate it's going to have many different applications.
An AI system that can construct compelling arguments could change the way we make decisions as a society. But what about split-second decisions when human lives are at stake? What happens when AI gets behind the wheel? Once belonged to the realm of science fiction. But it's here, it's real, and it seems to be everywhere. AI is being used to translate the complex language of dolphins. A real-life RoboCop recently joined the Dubai police force. And Ford's pizza robot could deliver your next meal.
You got it.
But few innovations have been as eagerly anticipated as the driverless car.
SB2 to tower. We're heading for Chicago. Please route us through.
Roger, SB2. You're now under automatic control. Hands-off steering.
Mind if I smoke a cigar? Oh, not with this wonderful air conditioning.
Cars that drive themselves have been a fixture in our collective imagination for decades. From Knight Rider's Pontiac to the autonomous Audi in iRobot.
What do you think you're doing?
I'm driving.
By hand?
But how close are we to a driverless reality?
One of the big applications of AI that almost everyone knows about already is the self-driving car. That will have a massive impact. But people should understand that it hasn't happened yet, despite seeing Google test vehicles out on the road or hearing about Tesla's autonomous mode.
The first self-driving car was in 1987. So they've been able to drive themselves a long time. But it takes a lot of stuff to get it to really work in the real world. And how we get there from here is a very complex question. And I think the more immediate question is, how are these self-driving cars going to operate in the messy world that people operate in?
The reason why we're not there yet is that driving is difficult. Driving in ordinary, regular conditions when nothing weird is going on, that's the sole problem. but dealing with difficult conditions where it's dark, it's raining, it's tricky for humans, and it's beyond the capabilities of our AI systems at present.
We have 35,000 deaths in cars in the U.S. every year. Ultimately, I think it's important that we get stupid people like me out of controlling a few thousand pounds of metal moving at high velocities. AI in the real world works when it doesn't matter if it fails. If you look at a Roomba, it often makes mistakes. It bashes into the same thing 3 times in a row. That momentary failure doesn't matter in the long term of the task. It does matter if your car bashes into the same wall 3 times. That's not going to work. It's got to work perfectly when it's a big mass with you inside it.
Autonomous cars were primarily driven on test tracks. But in the last few years, companies like Waymo, Tesla, and Cruise have taken to the open road. These pilot programs have successfully logged millions of miles to improve their performance. But several recent fatal crashes have raised concerns about the reliability of the technology.
Self-driving cars are technically possible, but I think it will take time. The alternative is us driving around and millions of people dying.
Safety is the most important aspect of this technology, without a doubt. The most important elements that a consumer cares about are very instinctual. Is this car seeing the things that I'm seeing? And is this car acting in the way that I would act based upon the things that it's seeing? Those are the simple questions that consumers need to feel really comfortable before they'll accept this technology. The artificial intelligence used in a self-driving car help answer the question, what do I see? That's called perception. It's taking all those images and figuring out what are the objects, what are the lanes, etc. that are there. The other thing it needs to do is to figure out how those objects are moving, and that's called predictions. And then the car has to ask itself, based on that, and based on where I want to end up, where do I go? And that's planning. Some other challenges that self-driving cars have is around understanding social context that we take for granted. So if you see some kids on the side of the road and that they're playing soccer, you understand that the ball may go into the street. The robot just sees people hitting a circular object. Now, over time, systems get better by learning, and this is one of the biggest advances in artificial intelligence is deep learning, so that it recognizes, oh, that ball may come on the street. But it needs to see lots of scenarios and needs to react to those, and then humans can help it say, that's right, no, that's wrong, and it will learn over time, similar to how a new 16-year-old gets their license, and they learn over time as well.
With AI's present ability to learn from experience, and over $80 billion invested in the technology, driverless cars could populate the streets of tomorrow in little over a decade. Researchers estimate that 1 out of 4 cars will be driverless in 2030. Shared car fleets are predicted to reduce the number of cars on the road, allowing for the transformation of our cityscapes.
We're going to be able to redesign our streets so that they can accommodate all modes of transportation, bicycles, walkers, less cars. When I look at my 7-year-old, he is not interested in owning a car. He's interested in going into an autonomous car. And I'm hopeful that 9 years from now, when that 7-year-old is 16 years old, that we're going to have this in place.
The future safety and reliability of driverless cars depends on how well AI can learn. The foundation of our human intelligence is the ability to learn. All human progress has been the result of learning from our past efforts, evolving our understanding, and inventing new solutions. Computer scientists have been trying to get machines to learn like humans for decades. It started with a game board.
That man isn't playing checkers against a computer, is he?
Sure, and it plays pretty well.
The first big public media breakthrough for AI was a system that taught itself to play checkers better than the guy who wrote the program. And that was in 1957.
By analyzing the data from thousands of games, the system learned which moves would most likely lead to a win. In machine learning, a computer analyzes data, finds patterns in that data, and uses those patterns to find the best route to a goal.
And now Deep Blue has begun with Rook E1.
Correct. Rook F1 to E1.
Rook F1 to E1.
Teaching computers to play games continued to be an effective testbed for advancing artificial intelligence.
And whoa! Deep Blue, Kasparov has resigned.
A dramatic leap in processing power, a massive increase in data, and advances in algorithms all contribute to today's AI revolution.
Things got 1,000,000 times better. 100 times was because of more computer power. 100 times was because of more data. And 100 times because of some smart mathematics that got figured out over many, many, many years. And each of those factors came together to suddenly make this sort of learning, which was slow and unreliable, relatively faster and reliable, the millionfold speed up.
And that old idea didn't work for a long period of time well enough. So data and computation really has transformed artificial intelligence into something that we can now use for a myriad of tasks.
Every day we are creating more data faster than at any time in human history. Every minute we watch over 4 million YouTube videos, conduct over 3.5 million Google searches, and tweet nearly 500,000 times.
Artificial intelligence, it's taking all this data and it's learning from it. It's doing it at a scale that we humans couldn't possibly have. I mean, we couldn't look at 1,000,000 rows of data and made any sense of it.
This massive amount of data provides endless opportunities for computers to learn, and for computer scientists to experiment and refine machine learning techniques. And because we are all contributing to the data on the internet, we are all part of that experiment.
We are swimming in seas of data. Every time we look at our smartphone, every time we click on a link on a website, all the sensors that are around us today, all of that is tracking information about our lives.
Today, AI systems are constantly tracking us and tailoring their outputs to our preferences, like Spotify curating a playlist for you, or Facebook choosing your newsfeed content. But they are also guiding self-landing space rockets for SpaceX, and helping doctors diagnose cancer from radiological scans.
In the last few years, there's been spectacular progress, where many things that many experts thought were going to take decades have already happened all of a sudden. Older AI systems that beat the best humans in chess, for instance, had the intelligence mainly programmed into them by humans who knew how to play chess. The modern thing to do is instead to have the machine just learn from itself.
Advances in AI fueled by machine learning are already changing every facet of our lives. But as machines get smarter and more capable, the question on nearly everyone's mind is, will it take away my job?
Robots may be coming for your job.
Machines could eventually replace people in the workforce. Will the huge advances in robotics and artificial intelligence strip away more and more jobs?
I do believe that a lot of jobs will be replaced over the next 10, 20 years.
People will increasingly lose their jobs, whether it be blue collar or white collar. No one's job is safe.
Historically, machines have been taking human jobs since the first industrial revolution. But this transition also created our first factories, while providing new jobs that had never existed before. This cycle of job loss and job creation repeats through the decades. The internet and digital age eliminated jobs like mapmaker, typist, travel agent, and telephone operator. It also redefined the music and entertainment industry, spawned a global economy, online marketplace, and new jobs that were unheard of 20 years ago, like YouTube star, social media manager, and app developer.
We have seen generation after generation of manufacturing change. We adapt, we figure out new things to do, and we keep going.
We're now at the dawn of another revolution, where advances in AI will touch all corners of our lives.
There'll be millions of jobs that we, cannot anticipate right now that will be there because of AI.
What's happening today is not that machines are replacing humans, but rather that humans working with AI are replacing humans working without AI. So it's key to think about how you can actually work better using this technology.
In Boston, Massachusetts, Rethink Robotics creates artificially intelligent robots that partner with humans on the factory floor.
With Sawyer, there's a lot of artificial intelligence going on behind the scenes. It knows that it has to approach in a particular way. It knows how to position its arm. And it also has some rules, like, for example, if I take this, the robot is going to detect that it actually didn't pick something, so it knows to retry and pick that. We measured force at every single one of the 7 joints, and that helps us identify, for example, how much force we're pushing with, or even when it's carrying something, how much it actually weighs. We have a camera right up here, and so the head can look around its workspace, understand when things are changing so that it can take different actions.
Sawyer learns by demonstration, not programming, which lets almost anyone train it to do tasks.
Sawyer's gone in some very small factories with less than 10 people working in them. If you put a traditional robot in there, you'd need a team of systems integrators.
And one thing that you can do there to optimize the cycle time is to have the gripper pre-oriented so that
we came up with the idea of, instead of programming the robot, training the robot, which is what you do with the person. You show them the task, you show them a few things they have to do, and they sort of patch it together, and they figure stuff out. What we've seen in some of the small factories is that some person with little technical background, they learn how to use it, and they become a robot person, and they get it to do tasks.
Sawyer is changing how people work with robots in factories around the world. Even a small stamp company in Richmond, Virginia, is updating its production after 40 years of business.
I was the shipment manager, and the boss let us know that he had purchased a robot. And I said, that's awesome. I don't know if I really have the skill set for it, but I'd love to try. So this first position will be here for the pick, and then from here we will move to our next location. With Sawyer, when you're training him, you're going to make a few points, and Sawyer's AI is going to create the rest of the moves in between those points. We brought it in for cutting wood because it's the most dangerous task in the workplace. And also filling ink was just very messy and it took a really long time. We would cut these probably 500 pieces at a time. But he can run the saw every night, so he can cut out 1,000 miles before we get back in the morning.
I've been working here over 30 years. For me, it has changed a lot. If we get a big order in, say like 100 mounts, and I'd have to cut 100 mounts, plus drill the holes, plus the pins for them. But now Sawyer's going to be able to do all that. Do I like the part that he took over? No, he can have it.
I was the customer service representative up front. Then I was moved to the back where I became a shipment manager. But with Sawyer coming to the workplace, now I'm the robotic technician. Now when I come into work, I know that I'm going to be training a robot to do something new that nobody else has probably ever done. So it's pretty exciting.
Robots can do the dull, repetitive things that bore people out of their minds, and then they can enjoy their jobs and be much more effective as human beings.
While Sawyer mimics our human ability to learn by demonstration, other robots display human-like agility. Boston Dynamics Spot Mini Robot can open and walk through doors. Its Atlas robot can run, jump, and do parkour. Still, other robots are created to look like us.
When you go back literally thousands of years, like the Greek mythology, people were envisioning robots, machines made to kind of mirror our image.
There is this desire to emulate a human, to create the most lifelike, human-like robot. I guess in science fiction we'd refer to it as a replicant. One interesting aspect of the Blade Runner series is an android that is absolutely indistinguishable from humans.
They were designed to copy human beings in every way.
There is a whole movement, especially in Japan, to make robots look as human as possible, and I suspect that it's a really disastrous thing in the making. We don't want to start getting into the situation where we feel that the machines have, in some sense, the same rights as humans because they look like people.
You could have the most sophisticated android that looks like a human, talks like a human, behaves like a human, but if that glimmer of consciousness is absent, no, it's not a person.
Well, you might not want all your machines to be conscious. Maybe you don't want your toaster to be conscious. I mean, if you're a very, very intelligent toaster, wouldn't it be kind of a torture to be forced to do nothing but toast bread all day long, right? But if you have an elder care robot, say, who really gets to know the person they're helping and bonds with them, I suspect that person would prefer that robot is conscious so that the things it says are actually sincere. It's only consciousness that can provide a foundation for morality and meaning and purpose. All the things we actually care about. If we can figure out what information processing corresponds to actual subjective conscious experiences, then we could build machines which feel a real empathy and actually care about us.
We are teaching AI to work, think, and reason in revolutionary ways.
Everybody learns differently, and any tools that you can introduce to personalize things to help them learn, particularly at the youngest ages, preschool, that sets up the foundation for lifetime learning.
A lot of experience for children are first-time experiences for them. You learn during the 0 to 8 year period, unlike any other moment in life.
Research has shown children that start school behind stay behind. And all schools have drastic differences depending on what state you're in, what neighborhood you're in.
But learning shouldn't be a matter of a child's zip code.
How are ya? Good morning. Hey, good morning. I have 23 children. I would love to be able to individualize everything. Good job, But that's very difficult because you're by yourself. And especially kindergarten, you don't always have an extra set of hands. But the Sesame app has been a big blessing. It's a vocabulary tutor for early childhood with a focus on kindergarten students.
Students from higher income levels hear 30 million more words by the age of 4 than those at lower income levels. And because of this, they have a harder time learning through their lives.
Early development is extremely important in determining the success of a child in life. So I think an app like this can close that gap. All right, you guys, I'm going to pass off to your iPad. At the beginning of the app, word chow is typically where most children will start.
Feed me as many word chow snacks as you can before the song ends.
When you play word chow, he says a word. And then you tap the picture to match the word, and then he eats them.
Yummy.
When you get it wrong, he spits it out.
Try again.
In word chow, Watson is keeping track of their answers and assessing the child's knowledge of that particular word. And the words that show up next will be based on how they perform during the assessment. So those words are tailored to each child.
On the surface, this looks like a child's game. But below the surface, artificial intelligence is collecting data, and algorithms are assessing the child's vocabulary level based on their responses. It then predicts and decides which words the child should focus on next, because each child's learning path is unique.
Splat the pie when I say half. Ready? Half.
This vocabulary app includes adaptive games and Sesame Street videos that teach new words and reinforce learning.
I'm Mike for Sesame Street, and I'm looking for the word on the street.
Once the child completes these learning activities, that learned word is added to their personal word book, a sign of confidence that the child understands its meaning.
I'm real proud because all of my kids are reading like crazy. They're mastering way beyond kindergarten expectations. And they are using the words that they learned just in the 9-week pilot.
Octagon sculpture, measure, champion, camouflage, conflict, identical, octagon, athlete. Magnify. That makes everything big so you can see everything good. Deciduous means that trees lose their leaves once a year. A pyramid is spinning around and rotating on one foot.
We're seeing children take the language that they learn from their interaction within the vocabulary tutor and use it in a real-world circumstance. It's unprompted.
Artificial intelligence, it's here whether we like it or not. The kids even today have said, you could invent a robot that could do something for you. And I'm like, that's really cool that 5- and 6-year-olds are thinking that way.
You can make a robot to help you out with doing something like your homework if you're getting confused with a question.
Artificially intelligent games are usually focused on young children during the years of critical brain development. But how might AI systems adapt to teach us beyond childhood, throughout our education, and into adulthood?
That as you move through higher grades and into your adult life, everything is getting personalized, and AI will be able to tutor you in a lifelong learning type of way.
This technology has been developed and tested with about 800 students in 12 universities around the country.
It's well known in the research that one-on-one tutoring drives learning. There's a study where they said that 97% of students who got one-on-one tutoring performed in the top 20% of their class.
Despite the value of traditional tutoring, this approach is tough to implement for all students when and where they need it.
Everybody has different backgrounds, different challenges, but this technology will personalize education for each individual student.
The Watson Tutor is a virtual one-on-one tutor that chats with students. One student called Watson a study buddy, and that really spoke to the fact that they felt like they had someone there while they were going through the material.
So based upon what a student says, whether or not their answer is correct, completely wrong, or maybe they're partially correct, the tutor will start to guide them down a path to demonstrate their knowledge.
I felt like I had a teacher that I was communicating with. To me, it feels like a person. Really, it does.
From the instructor view, we're actually able to see what questions the students ask. So if we start to see there are a lot of students who really don't understand this concept, we can adjust our lectures to focus more on those concepts, maybe try to find a different way to explain that concept.
What is this? Blueberry? Before using the program, it took me a while to study. What is that? You got it right. You got it right. Good half out. You did good.
This is something that you can carry around with you throughout your life. It will personalize to you, and in the future could understand and have empathy for the student being able to pick up on frustration and then adapt the conversation accordingly. We're actually in the process and in the early stages of building the ultimate learning tool.
AI is changing the way we learn and improving our minds. But what about our bodies? Could AI augment our senses? Could it help the blind to see? From the $6 Million Man to Iron Man, we have been fascinated by the idea of merging with machines. As AI advances, the line between our bodies and technology is disappearing more each day.
Through human enhancement, we can work to give us new capacities that we never had before, that evolution could have never even dreamed of, endowing us with. The instinct is to think, that we want greater intelligence and we want greater memory. But what about the ability to see better, to hear better, to experience the world around you in a different sort of a way?
Mario Kart has a mode where it does all the steering for you. You just got to hold accelerate and the computer does all the steering. But it means I can actually play a game with them.
Am I still in fifth?
7th.
7th?
I always get first place in this game.
Because me and Frank are still learning, aren't we, Frank?
Yeah, we are still learning.
I was born with a disorder of the retina called retinitis pigmentosa. And what it basically means is the rods in your eye die off over time. Initially, perhaps you may lose peripheral vision. And once it starts to close in, you then get night blindness, which means if it's dark, you can't see anything. And then it can continue to close in, you'll get tunnel vision. Then you'll begin to lose light perception, and then beyond light perception, there's nothing. I was registered blind by 18, but I just couldn't be angry at the fact that I didn't have sight anymore. I needed to adapt and do it quickly. And the running was a way to do it very quickly. When I first started running, I went and ran some soccer pitches that were behind my house because I thought it's a soccer pitch. You know, there's not really going to be anybody around. I can just run up and down the soccer pitch. And then I learned to run the path. Worked out quite nice. If you're willing to run into a few things like lampposts and memorise where everything is. Then after a few years, I started training for the marathon.
Running quickly became more than just a hobby for Simon. He started competing in marathons around the world. But blind runners are typically tethered to guide runners, and Simon was looking for independence.
I started to think how I could learn to run the open road and navigate as a blind person alone. And that's how I came to work with WareWorks.
This is our, Silicon Valley garage, but we're not in Silicon Valley. We're here in New Jersey. So I built this suit that you can download Kung Fu into, and the suit would teach you Kung Fu. The idea was that you throw a punch and you get a reading of how fast your punch was based off of the acceleration data that we captured. So this was when we first got into haptics.
Haptics is the science of applying touch to our interactions with technology. It's what happens when you feel your phone vibrate instead of hearing it ring.
It's working now.
Oh, it is.
Yeah. I think it was just a piece on maybe TechCrunch. I thought, oh wow, this is great. This is something that's close to my heart. So I just reached out and said, why not work together? I think we're stuck in a loop.
At this point, we were just I think we can get you around the block.
I'm not convinced that's the way we're going.
But Simon's saying, I'd like to challenge you to see if you can even get me through this marathon.
Simon and the WareWorks team spent months developing the Wayband, an AI haptic armband that will guide him through the New York City Marathon.
What's harder than navigating blind people through a city? Navigating through the New York City Marathon. The sheer audacity of what we're trying to do is going to move the whole blind community forward.
6 weeks before the big event, the team meets in Central Park to test the prototype.
3, 2, go. The way the Wayband works is it creates a virtual corridor just slightly wider than a human by plotting the route using GPS coordinates and machine learning. And then through haptic feedback, it ensures you always stay within this virtual corridor. Let's go to the right a little bit. Got me just down to the right thing, Oh, good. The way you know you're actually in the corridor is you get no feedback. If you know you get no haptic vibrations, that means you're going in the right direction, everything's fine. As soon as you step out of the corridor, you then get a little haptic notification to say, oh, it's gone wrong, step back into the corridor.
You feel nothing right now?
Nothing.
Perfect.
Ultimately, these haptic corridors will be created based on millions of data points collected by people using the Wayband. Based on their feedback, the Wayband will offer up the safest, most convenient route. Unlike regular GPS, the route is highly precise, alerting you if you deviate within just a few feet.
Think of Waze for pedestrians. Waze reads what other users are doing, so you can get the most effective route. But as a blind person, I want the least traffic route. So imagine an intelligent navigation device.
For the race, Simon is supplementing the Wayband with a haptic sensor that detects other people in front of him.
It works just like parking sensors do on a car, but instead of a beep, we have a haptic vibration.
Marathon's the biggest challenge of his life, but he trusts the technology, so we're less stressed out.
close in less than 5 minutes.
This is the first time I'll ever have had the chance to compete solo in a city marathon. It's something that, I've been wanting to do for a long time. New York's very busy. I think it's the biggest marathon by entry, like 50,000 runners. There's quite a few turns. Just fantastic crowd support and noise the entire way. It was quite complex for the blind runner. It's only through these moments where technology moves forward.
Simon was able to run without help from his guides for about 13 of the 26 miles. But around the midway point, things started to go wrong. The many metal buildings and bridges threw the GPS off course, and the cell traffic from tens of thousands of runners and spectators interfered with the wayband signal. Then Simon faced another hurdle: weather. As the rain poured down, the ultrasonic sensor stopped working. At that point, Simon had to rely on his friends to guide him to the finish line.
Work great, but for me, getting to finish the marathon is really moving things forward. Artificial intelligence is more about augmenting what humans are capable of, whether that's augmenting our senses or augmenting our knowledge. It shouldn't be an us and them type of system. Artificial intelligence should be seen as a companion. In any situation like this, it's about what you can take away, what can you improve. And that's what today was more than anything. I don't really run for time.
What are you running for?
See if things like this are possible. The real motivation to finish the marathon was to ensure that moving forward, technology is accessible. Because essentially perhaps the only way these things will be made accessible is if people like me are willing to be the voice that's always nagging saying, let's make it accessible.
The development of technology requires a long runway. The Wright brothers' first flying machines were a far cry from today's Boeing 787. AI is no different, and each step and misstep can inform progress.
This is a proof of concept to show what may be possible years down the line. There's no shortage of things that can go wrong with the human body, but through human enhancement, we can start to alleviate these problems.
I'm going to pick up my Master's at the University of Sheffield. My Master's is machine learning. And I suppose the motivation to really enter that space is to ensure that moving forward, technology is accessible for people like me.
In the future, what it means to be an individual will become this blurred thing where we are not just, constrained by our flesh and blood, but cyberguising ourselves and perhaps, integrating biological parts with synthetic parts and seeing how we can, reinvent ourselves.
AI is going to enhance our bodies and minds in ways we never imagined possible. At the same time, it will see us, hear us, and analyze us in ways that will challenge our ideas of privacy.
Artificial intelligence most certainly presents problems when it comes to our privacy, only because of how powerful it will be at surveillance, whether it be facial recognition, whether it be through almost any kind of, biosignature that we can exert onto the world. It will be able to pick up and know that it's you But more than that, it may be able to pick up on what you're saying, what your motivations are.
In our quest to create computers that interpret the world as we do, we have given them cameras for eyes, microphones for ears, and AI to make sense of what they see and hear. But what are the limits of their perception? With computer vision, AI can skillfully navigate three-dimensional space, allow self-driving cars to see their surroundings, and understand a child's facial expressions.
Good to see you again.
Computer vision can also analyze faces to identify individuals through facial recognition. Facial recognition looks at a face, extracts distinguishing features from it, like the size and position of the eyes, nose, cheekbones, and jaw, and then searches for other images with matching features. This is what Facebook is doing when it asks if you want to tag yourself in a photo, or when Apple's iPhone X unlocks by scanning its owner's face. But what is the balance between convenience, privacy, and security? You might be asking yourself this question the next time you board a plane. Right now, a dozen U.S. international airports are using facial recognition to check in passengers.
The Trump administration says it intends to require biometric face scans on all Americans traveling internationally. Passengers take digital photos at kiosks that will then be compared to passport images. JetBlue says the technology will eliminate boarding passes and speed up travel. Some privacy advocates say is a step too far.
Well, the first question you have to ask is, do we have any privacy right now? Anybody can take a picture of you anywhere, anytime, and you won't even know it. And so if somebody effectively wants to take your privacy, somebody can take it. The question is, do we agree with state-sponsored removal of privacy or corporate-sponsored reduction of privacy? And those are challenges.
In an effort to stem crime and terrorist attacks, countries around the world are using facial recognition technology at high-traffic locations like sports events, concerts, and rail stations. China, by far, has reported the most success in capturing suspects via its facial recognition systems. According to police, this technology led to the apprehension of 375 suspects, including 39 fugitives in Guiyang, China alone.
It's hailed as progress, but also poses ethical questions, particularly in a country with 170 million surveillance cameras.
China is currently building the world's most powerful facial recognition system. The goal is to be able to identify any Chinese citizen by his or her face within seconds. The Chinese government is also using facial recognition to encourage good behavior. 4 cities in China are using facial recognition to shame jaywalkers. Jaywalkers are filmed and matched to a database. Their personal information, including home address, is displayed on nearby screens. These applications are part of the government's Sharp Eyes program, which connects public and private security cameras to create one giant nationwide surveillance platform.
What we know of as privacy will become a thing of the past, and we're going to have to get over that in fairly short order. You look at these Orwellian tales, where Big Brother will be watching us, and it's kind of like the state, raining its technology down on us against our will. The irony is that we're actually introducing these technologies into our homes voluntarily. I believe that just a flick of the switch, and suddenly your Google Home or your Amazon Echo could be surveilling everything that you and your family is saying.
Other applications of facial analysis might challenge our ideas about what a computer should know about us.
Researchers have developed a form of AI that can identify individuals who are gay or straight. This is insane.
In 2017, a group of researchers at Stanford University claimed to develop an algorithm that could distinguish between gay and straight people based on facial features and expressions. The algorithm looked at images from a popular dating website and was able to determine if men were gay or straight with 81% accuracy and women with 74% accuracy. How much information do our faces really convey about us, and how could that information be used? For instance, could AI determine if someone was a criminal just by looking at their face with no other background information? One company says it can.
We can analyze thousands of pictures in just a few seconds from any source like surveillance camera. In this case, all of them were selected as burglars. Now we can see that we have 90% accuracy.
Faceception, based in Tel Aviv, Israel, predicts personality traits based on a facial image alone. No databases, just your face.
You all the time look at people and think sympathetic, not sympathetic, sexy, not sexy. While machines, they don't care about what is your race, gender, political opinion, and so on. And our vision is to teach machines to understand humans through a single piece of personal information, an image of a face.
Faceception reads a face and assigns it a probability of being a specific type of criminal. Authorities can then interrogate suspects accordingly. This is already being used by the Israeli Defense Forces and Homeland Security in the U.S. Unlike facial recognition, which matches faces to databases, faceception isn't tied to any database. It's not looking to match a face with a criminal record. It's just looking at a face and determining how suspicious it looks based on previous data.
It's been an age-old idea that there's a criminal facial type. The danger in that is that, of course, you have no control over your bone structure or your facial structure. And so it's just another form of stereotyping.
It's highly controversial. What this makes people think of is this famous sci-fi movie, Minority Report, where people can predict who's going to commit a crime, and therefore people are arrested before they have committed a crime.
I'm placing you under arrest for the future murder of Sarah Martin.
Well,
I didn't do anything.
What do we want to use AI for? Indeed, it should be to augment the ability of humans to solve problems and to be more prosperous and to be healthy.
Technology is morally neutral. Right? Fire can be used to warm your homes in the winter, and it can be used for arson. So to me the question is, what can we do now to make sure that AI enables humanity to flourish rather than flounder? Part of what we have to do is transform today's buggy and hackable computers into robust AI systems that we can really trust. Because if we can't even do that, then all this awesome tech we built can malfunction and harm us or be hacked and be turned against us.
Put your hands out in front of you and turn back and forth.
Most people get diagnosed in their 60s and 70s. I was diagnosed in my 50s.
Okay, that looks good. And this side? That's really hard to keep going, isn't it? Yeah. Okay.
You feel like your body's letting you down. You just sort of stare at it going, but why are you shaking?
And come down off the bench and then walk to the wall.
Parkinson's disease is predominantly thought of as a movement disorder caused by the degeneration of a very specific set of cells within the brain that are involved in the sort of generation of smooth and controlled movement. And then unfortunately, the only treatment that we have that we give to patients is from the 1960s. It's older than Jonathan. We wanted to identify drugs which are already on the market for certain diseases that we might actually be able to use to treat Parkinson's disease. The tricky part of this drug repurposing, though, is it's not humanly possible to read all of the literature on all of these drugs, and that's where artificial intelligence can really help.
Parkinson's disease remains without a cure, but researchers using AI have the chance to change the scope and speed at which drugs are discovered.
You really start to see that AI is opening up a whole new way of doing research. I just don't think it would actually be possible humanly to do it without artificial intelligence.
This is just the beginning of AI medical applications.
AI systems are starting to be able to make predictions from DNA, for example, about your susceptibility to certain types of cancer or the efficacy of a certain drug for you as opposed to another patient. That could really be the beginning of a revolution in medicine.
You and I, we are a general intelligence. We can do a lot of different things and in a lot of different contexts. And we do not have any computer even remotely close to being able to do that. They're extremely narrow in terms of what they can do. They can either play chess or they can play Go.
Deep Blue has responded instantly with bishop f1 to d3.
This is the ultimate goal, however, to create what's called an artificial general intelligence, or an AGI. And that will be actually a very profound thing, because now we're dealing with a single entity, or even a mind, if you will, that can in fact start to become super adaptable.
Artificial general intelligence, that's when a lot of times people call the singularity, when AI is going to be as smart as humans, or even smarter. And then the singularity is what a lot of people also fear, that intelligence gets so smart that it can surpass us and surpass our own control.
A singularity is simply an event beyond which you can't predict anything. That's an apt name also for the intelligence explosion, where in short order machines might be not just a little bit smarter than us, but way more capable. What's an intelligence explosion? In physics, an explosion is any phenomena where you get repeated doubling of some quantity over and over and over again. Something small rapidly gets very big. If what's happening is that the energy release is doubled, that's a bomb explosion. If what's happening is that the population keeps doubling, that's a population explosion. And if what's happening is that the intelligence keeps doubling, that's an intelligence explosion.
This is a data cell from the data cell drive.
If each iteration of your computer can design something which is a certain factor better than the predecessor, you'll keep doubling. If this computer is better than us at everything, including AI programming, it can quickly figure out ways of rewriting its software to be much better. And then it can do that many, many times, which might make it not just a little bit better than us, but already a lot better than us.
I've often thought that artificial superintelligence will probably not be built by a human or a human team. It would not surprise me if in short order we have machines that are teaching other machines and creating them in ways that we would not have been able to.
The turning point in the history of the human race would be the creation of something that we might call human-level AI. It would be comparable to the arrival of a superior alien civilization on Earth. But AI is not an alien species. It's something that we design, and in fact we have to make very sure that it isn't an alien species with its own objectives that are not aligned with ours, or like ex machina. What is clear is that the robots were designed in such a way that the designers had no control over the objectives.
Everybody said stop.
Hollywood movies make us worry about the wrong thing. We shouldn't worry about malice, but competence and misaligned goals. So if I'm in charge of building a hydroelectric dam for green energy, and there's an anthill in the middle, too bad for the ants. That does not mean I'm an evil ant hater who killed the ants just out of spite. It just meant that my goals weren't aligned with those of the ants, and too bad for the ants, and we have to never put humans in the situation of those ants.
When you're dealing with something which is more intelligent than humans, you can't anticipate all the ways that it might come up with a plan that you're not happy with. If you look at WALL-E, everyone sits around on jet-powered bark lounges, sipping giant super gulps. That's not a future that we want either, which seems to mean that machines should leave us to try and fail rather than having everything handed to us on a platter.
We don't necessarily have to fear being in the presence of more intelligent beings, because we've all experienced that as kids. Mommy and daddy were smarter than us. But that worked out okay because their goals were aligned with our goals. If we actually ever do, as a society, create machines that are smarter than us, we have to first figure out how to make sure that they can understand our goals, adopt them, and retain them.
It is a profound human quest to create these technologies. Put your hands in front of you. I think we do it to understand ourselves. I think we do this because we believe it will help create a better society. I think we do it because we believe that it's going to help us to become the people who we aspire to be.
What makes me the most excited about AI is the opportunity to create a better future. I'm hopeful that if we really plan and work hard for it, we can use this ever more powerful technology to create a future that's more inspiring than our ancestors even dreamt of.
Thanks for your attention.
Artificial intelligence is a tool. Can I be more successful professionally, or does it help me be a better artist or a better physician? As a scientist, can I perform discovery faster? Those are good outcomes, and that should be the right measure of what AI is good for. I think from a societal perspective, we're going to see an evolution in that you'll be less utopian or dystopian. The debate is always being framed as the utopia is technology will do all the work for us. And the dystopia is the overlords over us and we will lose all human agency. But what I tell people is that it's a choice and that we should not fall into technological determinism. Technology is simply a tool to achieve the goals. We need to decide how we want to use technology to solve problems for us.